Everybody. Today, the whole thing is about your feet. We're going to talk about these lovely little bones, but I'm going to start off with a song. So I want all of y'all to stand up, and I am going to share my computer screen with you, and we're all going to hear this song. Can you see the skeletons dancing?
I can't hear it.
So how many bones do you think we have in our bodies?
206.
That's it. And do you know how many of those bones are in your feet?
Half of that.
Do you know how many bones are in your feet? There's 27 bones in your feet. So I want all of y'all to sit down. If y'all have socks, take your socks off. And I want y'all to really look at your foot. And I want y'all to just have a feel of your foot and think about all these bones in your feet. So the bone in the back here, that's your heel bone. And the bone that makes your leg go up and down, that's your ankle bone. And those two bones together make the back of your foot. Then you have the middle foot, and then you have your toes. How many toes does everybody have? On each foot. Everybody has 5 toes? Does everyone have 5 toes? On each foot? Okay, good. So what we're going to start with is we're going to talk about how we can use these bones in our feet. So I want everyone to stand. And I want you to think about all the 27 bones in your feet. And I want you to think about just the 5 toes. And I want you to see if you can curl those toes. Can everybody curl their toes? I'm going to try and see. I won't see you that close. Can you all curl your toes? Can you all fan your toes? I'll show you how I can fan my toes. Can all of you all fan your toes like that? Anyone having trouble fanning their toes? No? Okay, that's great. Now I'm going to show you all something else on your feet. And that has to do with this. Oops, I have to close this window. Ooh, where is this? Here we go. So on your feet, there's something called arches. So if you look on the inside of your foot, you will see a nice curve. Some of y'all might have a curve, some of y'all may not have a curve. We are not born with these curves. The more we walk and the way we use our foot decides if we have these curves. So you can either have, this middle section is a normal curve. If it's a big letter C, it's a high arch. And if it's more like a flattened C, it's more what we call like a lower arch. So I want you all now to look at your feet and think about these arches in your feet. So what I want,
Mine's flattened, like flat.
I want you all now, remember we did the curling of the toes exercise? What I want you to do now is try and see if you can lift your arch and drop your arch. Lift your arch and drop your arch. This is very important if you want to ever play sports, the ability to move this arch up and down. I'm going to come closer to the screen so you all can see. Lift the arch, lower the arch. Lift the arch, lower the arch. And you're able to do that with those arches because there is a ligament there called the spring ligament. How many of y'all have ever played with a slinky and that it moves up and down? So that's what your toes can do. Yeah. Okay. Now the next thing I want y'all to do is I want y'all to stand and we're going to use these muscles of our feet. So the first muscle we're going to use is your calf muscle. So you'll want to come up onto your tippy toes and down onto your tippy toes. And up onto your tippy toes and down onto your tippy toes. That is using your calf muscle. And what's happening is the muscles in the front of your feet are really keeping you down. Now, if you don't have strong foot muscles, you won't have balance. So any of y'all who are moving like this, that has to do with balance. Now try doing it on one leg, up and down. Come on, I see some of y'all sitting down. Try getting up and coming up and down. And that's using your calf muscle. The next muscle is in the front, and that has to do with tapping your foot. So can you all tap your foot? One leg, and then both legs. Now, if you really are strong, you all can try doing this. Walking on your heels. Come on, let's see how many steps everyone can take walking on their heels. Let's go. Let's go. Don't let those toes touch the ground. And then try walking on your tippy toes.
I could do it both, but you just can't see me on mic. I mean, not on mic. Ugh.
So everyone should be able to walk on their tippy toes and on their heels.
I can jump on my tippy toes.
Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do another movement of the feet, and that's lifting the inside of your foot. So see if you can lift your feet up, lift your feet down, lift your feet up, lift your feet down. And try doing that at the same time. And then try going the opposite way. Try to lift the outside of your feet.
What is this based on?
Come on, you all should all be able to do this. I don't think any of you all have inflexible feet. Now try and see if you all can walk on the outsides of your feet. And see if you can walk on the insides of your feet. And then I want you all to compare which was the easiest to walk on your heels, your toes, the outside or the inside. And most of you all might find that it's easiest to walk on your tippy toes. Yes?
It's easy walking on my toes.
Now try, so we did the big movements of the feet, that is up, heels, in and out. The next thing we're going to do is try and lengthen your toes and curl your toes. Lengthen your toes. So you're going to curl your toes and lengthen them. Curl them. And these teensy little toes here have 3 little bones in them. That's why you can bend your toes like this. This one has only 2 bones, and the rest of your toes have 3 bones. That's why you can do a bit better curl with your 4 toes rather than your big toe. So see if you can do that. Curl your toes and straighten your toes. And if you want to get really creative and strengthen these muscles, you can take a blanket and then you can start to pull it with your toes. So the stronger your toe muscles are, you'll see that I can pull this blanket. If I didn't have strong toe muscles, this blanket would not move. So it's a really nice way to strengthen your feet. If you strengthen something, you also must be able to stretch it out. So remember from 2 weeks ago, we talked about the calf stretch. So you want to keep one leg in front, one leg in the back, and then you want to lean into the front leg and push this back heel down to feel a stretch into your calf muscle. And then if you bend your knee a little bit, you'll feel it shift a little bit into your foot.
Griffin, move your screen so I'm not showing, please.
And then you can switch legs.
Angle it so it's not showing me.
Give me a sec. You go on your sister.
I can see myself in your screen. I don't like it.
Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is your toenails. And it's going to be a very brief little chat. But what I wanted to show you is when you cut your toenails, try not to go in a arch, because you're going to have what's called a hangnail, and you're going to end up with some toenail issues. So you want to, whenever you cut your toenails, especially if you're cutting it and your skin's dry, you might just want to go underneath your nail a bit. My toenails are already cut, so I can't really show you much, but you want to cut your toenails straight across. You don't want to go in a circle like that. And that will keep your nails healthy, and when you all run, it won't cause too many problems. Any questions so far? Does anyone have a question on how the foot moves? Yes, Michael? Let me unmute you. Go ahead. What's your question?
Well, my question is that do bones also are bones in your hands?
Yes, there are bones in your hands too, just like the foot.
Oh.
The bones of the hand and the foot are the same kind of bones. They're called cortical bones because they have a nice solid shell outside and a little softer inside. But So yes, they're similar bones, but today it's about the feet. Yeah. Any other question? Okay, so let's challenge our feet now. Everybody stand, then we'll do some more fun stuff. So what I'm going to have you do is try and stand up, turn your feet out, and then turn your feet in, and then go back to turning your feet out, just so you know where you are. And now we're really going to challenge our feet. So you're going to come up on your toes, then you're going to go into a squat, you're going to come down on your toes, and then you're going to come back up. Okay, so up on your toes, squat, down on your toes, in. Up on your toes, squat, down on your toes, in. Squat, down, and in. Now we're going to reverse it. So we're going to squat, come up on our toes, and then come down. You're going to squat, come up on your toes, and down. Squat, up on your toes, up and down. And these kind of movements, what you see me do right now, they're called pliés. And a lot of ballerinas do these movements to strengthen their feet. So you want me to repeat that? So the first one is up on your toes, squat, down on your toes, and up. And then the other one was squatting, up on your toes, straight and down. Which one was harder?
The second one.
The second one. Yes, it's also very confusing,
The
right?
first one.
The first one. Okay. Alrighty. The next thing we're going to talk about is shoes. So, I know all of you like fancy shoes, but what I want to show you is first a running shoe. This is a running shoe. It's designed for you to run in. What you'll find in a running shoe is this pattern at the back. This is called a wave pattern. And the reason, if you have a running shoe and you look at the back of it, if you see this, this is a wave.
Sorry, Papa, I can't.
This wave is necessary so that when you run and you go from your heel to your toe, it allows your foot to move like this. So this is already designed into your shoe. But when you run, you also have to not fall to the side. So can you see these little squares here? What does that remind you of? What does this remind you of? A chocolate bar?
Yes.
Yes, exactly. So this is what they call a chocolate pattern on a shoe. And you'll find this chocolate pattern always on the inside of the shoe where your toes are, because that's where you have that impact. So it needs to support you. So most running shoes have what we call a wave pattern, which is like this and horizontal waves, and a chocolate pattern. Now, whenever you have a shoe, you want to make sure that your shoe only bends at the top where your foot is, where your toe is. So if you remember when we did those exercises, when you stood on your tippy toes, your shoe only bends, your foot only bends here. So make sure that when you buy shoes, you see something like this. You don't buy a shoe that completely bends over. Now, this is my little one's shoe. Now she's still developing her arches. She's not even 4 years old. So her shoe completely collapses. Now the reason why I'm showing you this is because this shoe requires her to work. If you all start wearing shoes that just crumple in your hands, those are bad shoes for you because they are going to hurt your feet. A baby shoe is designed to be soft so that the baby has a chance to develop their arches. Once you start developing your arches and you have these shoes that collapse or don't support you, you're going to drop your arches. So make sure that when you're buying shoes, they're not doing these silly things. They're more like this kind of a shoe. So if you see, this is another shoe in my house from my older kids. It doesn't move as much. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah?
No, 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 no.
Now
No.
summer is coming. So now you're going to need to buy, or you all might want to wear something like this so that there's a lot more air. Sometimes you all can wear this even when you're doing a dry, flat kind of a trek. Now, what you want to make sure in these kind of open shoes is that the toe box or the front of your shoe actually has a protection for your nails. You also want to make sure that there are these straps on the side. These straps are going to hold your foot from side to side. See? If you didn't have these straps, and I'm going to show you a really bad pair of shoes, that really kind of doesn't support you at all. And then the other thing you want to do is you want to make sure you have something like a back strap. The reason for the back strap is so that it allows your front and the back of the shoe to connect. Can you see that? If you don't wear your shoe like this, and I know a lot of you like to wear your shoe like this, where you'll actually step on the back. Look at this. See how there's no support in your shoe suddenly? So it's really important to have a back strap, because now see how sturdy the shoe automatically becomes. So it's not only important to buy the right shoe, it's also important to wear the shoe correctly. Since we are all scouts and we go on a lot of hikes, I thought I should also show you a hiking boot. Now, the hiking boot is a little different than regular shoes. It's a very stiff shoe. Can you see? It's pretty stiff. I can't just bend it like my running shoe. See, this is a much more flexible shoe. The other thing with the hiking shoe, if you see the bottom, these grooves are very deep. Can you see this? Can you notice the grooves? Now, the reason why the hiking shoe has these deep grooves is it provides traction. Traction is so that you don't slip. So if you were on a muddy path and you were sliding down, the shoe will help you grip the mud. That's what traction is in a hiking shoe. Or if you were climbing the mountain or you were climbing a slope, it will help you not slip this way. So it's really, really important to have a hiking shoe with at least this much of a sole depth or grooves, because it will help you anchor. The other thing, most hiking shoes are, they are built more with like a leather or Gore-Tex kind of a material. And that's so that it helps you, if your shoe gets wet, it can dry faster, it's much more permeable, and it's not made of cotton or canvas, which will just soak everything up. The other thing is how it laces.
I like you doing
Laces are really, really important. And for those of you who don't like to tie laces, you can always buy the elastic kind. But tying shoelaces really keeps the shoe on your foot. If you don't have laces, then everything is moving around and it doesn't offer support. The other thing about a hiking shoe is it's usually a high, it's just at your ankle or slightly above. The reason for it is when you're in uneven terrain, it gives you more ankle support and it prevents you from just rolling your ankle over. See, there's some sort of resistance here. Whereas in this shoe, I have no ankle support. So if you're someone who is doing moderate to high level hikes, it's not a bad idea to invest. I know, Samit, you do it. You might want to get a hiking shoe that's supporting you.
Yeah.
So we've talked about shoes. We've talked about the feet. What are we missing? Socks. So we're going to talk about socks now. So socks usually have what's called a toe piece and a heel piece. And this is what I would call a very flexible sock. So if I'm going to the supermarket or if I'm just walking around town, I might use this kind of a sock. It's just to keep my foot together. It's for moisture, to absorb some sweat or anything like that. But if I'm going running or if I'm working out, it's better to have a more athletic looking sock. This particular one, there's no seam, so there's no friction which will give me a burn. It also has what's called as an arch support in the middle. It also has a cushion. So if you see the inside of this, there's a bit of cushioning for your heel if you are running. And it also is very light. This sock of mine does not have any heel support. So I wouldn't be running in these socks. It's just to walk around, but these socks are more for when you are, doing high intensity activity or something like that. Okay, so we've talked about socks, we've talked about how to cut your toenails, we've talked about shoes, we've talked about the muscles, we've talked about the movements. So why do you think the feet are so important? You know what's the one thing the feet can do which no other body part can do?
Who's sharing their screen?
Whoever's sharing their screen, can you unpin your screen, please? There we go. What's the one thing that your feet can do which no other joint can do? And it does it all the time. So the one thing that your feet can do, which no one else, it's the only part that's in contact with the ground all the time. Do you see me walking on my hands or on my knees? So your feet support your entire body weight all day long. If you stand, if you walk, if you squat, if you stand on one leg, if you jump, the only part of your body that's touching the ground all the time, except when you're sleeping, are your feet. So having happy feet is really, really important. So that wraps up the happy feet. I hope you all learned how to use your feet, how to improve your arches, how to buy good shoes that support you. Anybody has any questions for me? Or does anyone have a shoe they want to show me so I can comment on it? I'm more than happy to. Yes, Michael.
Your bones also gives us nutrients.
Your bones need nutrients. Yes, so every bone has what they call an artery enters that bone, and the artery that it's always pointing towards your heart. So it enters from this way. So your foot bones, it will enter from this way.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No.
Nobody has any food questions? Okay then. Well, thank you for joining me.
No.
We will do another cooking show
Bye.
as part of wellness, and I hope to see you all then. Take care.
Bye.